How important is this position within the EU?
Well, it's incredibly important, Belle, in many regards. This is the person who's going to replace Jean-Claude Juncker, the head of the Commission, one of the three presidents of the European institutions. Clearly, Jean-Claude Juncker has an awful lot of influence, particularly when it comes to policy area and the direction of Europe. And in many regards, in trying to make this process more democratic, they've come up with this system that's called the Spitzencandidate, the lead candidate. That is that each of the political groupings in the European Parliament get to decide who they would like to represent them, trying to make the election next year, the European elections, a bit more about personality, a bit more about someone that voters can relate to. There is one caveat to all of this, even though, and we know that Franz Timmermans, for example, is the Social and Democrats candidate, even though the European Parliament is pushing to try and make whoever the lead candidate of the individual parties is, and whoever the largest party is should in theory become the Commission President. It will still be up to national leaders, to the EU Council to decide. So irrespective of who wins this race, they could potentially ultimately pick another candidate.
And Darren, just talk us through those candidates, the choice that party members have today.
Indeed, and actually delegates are arriving, thousands of them here at the EPP Congress. They will be voting at lunchtime to choose between Manfred Weber, as you say, a Bavarian politician who has got the backing of many leaders, not least of all Angela Merkel, seen as the clear favourite in this race. I think what's going to count against him necessarily is potentially that he is German and that he's got very little experience really outside of the European Parliament. And the other person is this man. Well, it's not quite him. It's Alex Stubb. Some of his supporters, he's led a rather enthusiastic race to many regards, presenting himself as the kind of change candidate in these elections, Belle. We could get a cheer potentially for him. I don't know. There you go. Well, I say they're enthusiastic. They're a little bit enthusiastic. And he is the former Finnish Prime Minister, Finance Minister and Foreign Minister, clearly got an awful lot of experience. He's an Ironman runner. But he is, as he revealed himself, the outside candidate. He hasn't got many of the backing of political leaders. And one of the issues that does divide them, though, is this issue of Hungary and the rule of law, with, it must be said, Alex Stubb trying to take a tougher line on this issue. And we spoke to Hans-Geir Pottering, he is a former EU politician, about this particular issue, and this is what he had to say.
I think that the Hungarian partners and friends, they support Manfred Weber, and this seems to me an indication that they want to come to a situation that nobody takes them into question anymore. This is a hope, but let's see how future develops. But we have now the time to make clear that we have common values, and all parties in the European People's Party have to commit themselves to these values.
So what to do with Hungary, what to do with Viktor Orban and his party's position inside the EPP is and has been one of the talking points of this Congress. I suspect we're not going to see a solution to that today. We are also going to hear, it must be said, from Jean-Claude Juncker and Michel Barnier, who are expected here. The Irish Prime Minister, the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, is also here. I suspect Brexit will be on the agenda. But all eyes will be at lunchtime on who's going to win this battle, who is going to become the Spitzencandidate, the lead candidate for the EPP. Is it going to be Manfred Weber or indeed Alex Stubb? Whoever it is will take a lead role in the elections next year. But as I say, the expectation is that it will be Manfred Weber, that he will be, I suppose, probably the person most likely to take over from Jean-Claude Juncker when he retires, in the middle of next year.
We know that she's left the country, but we don't know where she's gone now or how she's left her. What do we know at this stage?
That's the question, which is splitting up Pakistan in two right now, Belle, because on the one side it was being reported of late that she's done. There were several governments in Europe, including Italy. Italy was the most likely destination because of statements from that government offering to help, that's where she would end up. However, the official version right now is that she is in Pakistan. The official version is coming in from the Information Ministry and the Foreign Ministry, that she has not left Pakistan. Now, we do know that she was flown in from the south of Punjab, which is the province where she's from, which is the political heartland of Pakistan, to the north of Punjab, onto a military airbase in the federal capital. We know that since then her location has been unknown. We know that her lawyer, who spent years trying to defend her and successfully defended her till a couple of weeks ago, was forced to leave. He has officially sought asylum. He himself is in the Netherlands, but most of the rest of the family are in Pakistan at this point. However, they have appealed to other European governments for asylum. However, bottom line, the Pakistani Information Ministry and the Pakistani Foreign Ministry are saying that she will remain in Pakistan for now. It's quite confusing, but it's all about her safety.
It certainly is, Waj. And of course, this all centred around this idea of blasphemy laws in Pakistan. Where can we expect that side of things to go from here?
So Pakistan is one of around 70 or so countries in the world to still have blasphemy laws. These laws date back to British times, but have been compounded by the Islamism Pakistan has experimented with of late. Now, till 10 days ago, when you and I talked last, the day she was released, these protests were by a radical fringe group, if you want to call them that, who are beginning to have some sort of mainstream presence. Now, today, the threat is of a 1 million-man march, not from a fringe group at all, but from one of the largest coalition opposition members in and out of government. That's the Muttahida Majlis Amal, which is a grand coalition of our more conservative mullahs, so to say, or more conservative political opponents of Imran Khan. So, from the radical right on the fringe, you are seeing the opposition to Bibi become a more centrist part of Pakistani polity. Now, of course, violence has receded. Mr. Khan's appeal to the people of Pakistan for calm 10 days ago was seen broadly and widely and well received. However, the country remains firmly divided between those who want her head, who want her to hang publicly, versus those who are thankful that she may have left the country. However, it is embarrassing for this government at this point if they don't provide her the security of her life, if they don't protect her family, if they let her go to Italy or to the UK or a couple other countries which are on the list, then of course there's flack coming from Mr. Khan either way. If he keeps and protects her, he's going to be criticized by the religious right. If he can't protect her, lets her go, he's going to be criticized by the Pakistani progressive political elite. He's in trouble either ways because of this case, Bell.
Waj, how far do you think it could go with Imran Khan? I mean, could this really loosen his grip on the country?
So we did see the scale of the protests was humongous a couple of weeks ago, but the way the state has come in has, I wouldn't say been impressive, but it's been pragmatic. There was no major crackdown, however, arrests were made. There was no major populist U-turn, however, appeals were made. So far, Mr. Khan and members of his government have been trying to tread the path between Pakistan's more progressive values as not a non-secular theocracy versus just a radical going crazy on the right fringe of radical Islam democracy. So they're trying to tread that centrist path. It's going to be difficult, but so far Mr. Khan does seem to be in control. However, the more political this movement gets, as we are expecting more protests today, it'll be interesting to follow how the markets, Mr. Khan, his allies in government, how they back him up on this one.
Now, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, will be welcoming more than 60 world leaders this weekend to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. But the celebrations are taking place against a backdrop of low popularity ratings for the French president. Yesterday, Macron visited Ardennes to pay homage to those who lost their lives on the battlefields in that region. The trip was overshadowed, though, by a controversy over his plans to honour Maréchal Pétain, one of the most successful military commanders during World War I, but also the leader of France's collaboration with Nazi Germany during World War II. Well, let's get a little more on this with Annelise Borges, who's in Paris. Good morning, Annelise. It's the fifth day of Macron's tour of the battlefields of World War I. He's suffering from low approval ratings. Can he do anything this week to try and revive those fortunes?
Well, he's certainly trying to do just that. Good morning, Belle. This tour for Emmanuel Macron has been planned as an opportunity for the French president to honor the past while attempting to reconquer the future. He wanted an opportunity to try and reconnect with French voters, to spend time with them, to listen to them. And he's had a chance to do just that over the last few days. Yesterday, during one of his stops, he spent some time with one pensioner. He met Josiane, who had quite a few things to say to Emmanuel Macron. Take a listen.
I've only been here for a year and a half.
I know, Mr. President, but why are you massacring us? My husband and I have barely 2,000 and they're lowering pensions again.
No, I'm not massacring anybody. I believe in politics based on merit, on work and what you represent. And I know things aren't moving fast enough for you, so I'm trying to explain what we're doing. I'm asking you for patience. I know it's been years, decades, that we've been asking you for efforts. There are no miracles. I will not perform miracles, madam.
He cannot perform miracles. Emmanuel Macron saying he cannot take France back to les 30 glorieuses, the boom years following World War II, and that reforms are needed, especially a reform of the pension system here in this country. Pensioners are extremely worried about that plan. They have been taking to the streets over the last few months, saying that Emmanuel Macron's policies and taxes threaten their pensions and threaten to impoverish them.
And Annelise, just explain to us this controversy surrounding Macron's decision to pay homage to Pétain, a divisive figure.
Indeed, Emmanuel Macron has been embroiled in quite a few controversies over the last few months, but the one that is picking up steam during this tour is the one involving Philippe Pétain, Marshal Pétain, or the old marshal who was praised as the Verdun lion in the First World War, but is reviled here in this country for his role as a leader of the authoritarian Vichy regime while the Nazis occupied France. Well, Emmanuel Macron said that Pétain was, I quote, a great soldier, and that one could be a very competent troop in one war and then make some terrible mistakes in the next war. He said he was not going to ignore a chapter of history, that it was important to acknowledge history in all its complexity. Well, that did not go down so well with people here in France who are still traumatized by the memory of Pétain. They've been saying that Emmanuel Macron had lost his mind by praising this man. And there were questions raised about whether or not Emmanuel Macron would pay homage to Pétain in a ceremony on Saturday here in Paris at the Invalides. The Élysée Palace, in an attempt to quash this whole controversy, said that that was never part of the plan.